Hello, and welcome to MyCounselor.Online. I'm your host, Brittany East, and joining me today as our featured counselor is Jessica Park. Jessica took on the hard work of diving into how pornography can really affect couples and what to happen when you discover your spouse is using pornography. Before we jump into this difficult topic, Jessica, can you take a minute to share about yourself for those viewers who may not know you yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Brittany.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Jessica. I'm one of the counselors here, my counselor online, and I'm just a regular person who I think God kind of made to walk with people through kind of the valleys and the sort of the trenches of their lives. I really enjoy it. So I live in North Carolina, and right now it's just beautiful here. It's fall, so kind of my favorite thing right now in life is just kind of being outside with kind of friends, family, spending time with my dogs. That's a little bit about me.
Awesome, Jessica. Thanks. So, your article today that we're going to be diving into is titled Surviving Your Spouse's Porn Addiction. And this is a part one, so which is exciting. We have a part one and part two of this series. So, what inspired you to write this article to begin with?
Yeah, so I got the initial idea for the article in prayer, just kind of asking if God had direction for me about what He'd want me to write about. And I was surprised at what He said. I didn't expect that. But I brought the idea to some of my colleagues at MyCounselor.Online, and they really helped me to continue to refine the idea and kind of focus and sharpen it. And so I really love that this began with the Lord's heart and kind of something that He cares about that's happening in people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So, who is this article written for? Does it has a very specific audience, or do you feel like it can apply to multiple people?
Right. So I think when it comes to the subject of how pornography is affecting a relationship, a marriage, typically the conversation is about kind of the wife trying to survive her husband's porn addiction. But in this article, I chose to address it to spouses rather than just to wives, because, the truth is that women are not the only ones facing this issue in their marriage. And
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of include the guys as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think kind of on a broader scale, this article is written for anybody who has kind of experienced a relational injury. And I think that's all of us. There can just be kind of really helpful pieces in here, give you the lay of the land of like where you're at and what you're experiencing. So in some ways, I think it reaches widely as well.
Yeah, I definitely got that sense when I read your article. So, specifically about the pornography, like discovering that, does like how someone finds out that their spouse has a porn addiction, like whether it was accidental or their spouse just confessed it to them, like does it change like how they found out? Does it change how difficult it is for that truth to be handled by yourself?
Yeah, what a good question. And that discovery, like kind of in a moment, it's like your whole reality as it is just like called into question. And trust that probably took years to develop is just kind of broken in an instant. And so while the discovery, whether it's found out and confronted or whether kind of your spouse comes to you and confesses, may add some different nuances or difficulties into your story, I would say the truth is just really hard to come to terms with. Right. And to kind of face what this journey is and will be and will look like, because it's not the reality that anyone wants for their lives, and that can just be really hard. So
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes sense. So, what are the two ways people typically respond once they do find out that their spouse has a porn addiction?
yes, I love this part of the article because just in life, I think we all kind of can find ourselves leaning a little more heavily towards one of these sides than the other. But I know that a lot of people probably find that they relate a bit to each of them.
Yeah.
And so, it's just kind of cool to see like where you find yourself, and even how your approach might change throughout the journey. But
Mm.
here's what they kind of look like. Some people just kind of react with kind of big anger. They go to control.
Mm.
Um, it feels like justified, right? Like,
Yeah.
this person hurt me, they did this thing, and anger feels like the right response. It kind of sounds like, you will get help, or you can kiss this marriage goodbye,
Mm.
ultimatum style,
Yeah.
and kind of acts like lots of control is the solution to the pain.
Okay.
Um, so that's camp one. And camp two is kind of those of us who are, just desperate to forgive it all, move on, put it behind us, act like it didn't happen, and return to normal.
Mm-hmm.
And, people in those camp in that camp feel like it's just the Christian thing to do. It's like what
Mm.
Jesus calls us to do is forgive one another, right? Not kind of hold our sins against one another. And so kind of sounds like, you know what, I forgive you, Jesus forgives you, we're going to get through this, everything's going to be fine. And kind of acts like the pillar of strength and forgiveness,
Mm.
right? Nothing's actually wrong. This didn't hurt me or devastate
Mm.
me to my core. Yeah, so that's camp number two.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Kind of like it's true. We kind of can fall into like one of those two camps where they're more outward and more in outward turmoil versus maybe like inward turmoil. And I really appreciate in the article how you give those examples, because it makes it like maybe like, oh, I'm just in a state of chaos and shock. I don't even know. So I like how you break down like, hey, like if you're thinking these thoughts, you might be more towards this camp, and these are going to be like those struggles you go through, this one versus that one. So when you do have an explosive anger response, like what deep need are you trying to fulfill by like your explosive anger with that intense need to control?
Yeah. I think a few things probably. Anger is this really a great emotion in a lot of ways. It provides a lot of energy. And so at first it feels like, wow, okay, this anger is giving me a way through rather than me like
Yeah.
crumbling in the corner, and just feeling like I don't even know what steps to take. And so anger can really like feel like it's providing this boost, right?
Okay.
Um, but it gets tricky when the anger starts to lead into, needing to control it, needing to feel like it's going to be fixed. And so that anger can look like rising to the occasion and like being the hero. And, it's a place that's really protective. It's a place where we want to feel kind of worthy and valuable, like we have something to give in this. And it's a place where we're really kind of afraid of what it means if we're not in control.
Yeah.
And how scary that can be.
No, it totally makes sense. I appreciate like in your article you talk like you're specifically you say like being the one with the plan helps us to feel significant and worthy. And I feel like, I mean, I could totally relate to that. Like you said, like whether it's pornography or even just any other intense relational trauma, sometimes you feel like, well, we have a plan. Yes. So it's like, we are going to figure this out, and I'm still important in this person's life because I'm doing this. But I think you're right. It is a huge protection, like from being hurt. Cause it's like, well, if there's a plan, like
Yeah,
we're gonna get through it, obviously. Like, but it's just interesting, yeah, to see that it's actually coming from an intense place of fear, and so yeah, just like how we can actually navigate that. So, I mean, we talked about anger and how you said like it can be really great. So is it wrong to like share your anger with your spouse then if you feel like that's where you tend to go towards in this reaction to their pornography use? Like, is that wrong to share your anger?
Right. Anger is one of those emotions that's actually really important for us to share with our spouse in a journey like this. But kind of the style of expressing the anger and the timing of expressing the anger is really important. So stylistically, kind of raging at your spouse and just unleashing the torrent of your wrath might not be the best approach, even though that might feel, viscerally like right.
Right.
It's one of those things that's going to do more damage to your relationship and maybe make your spouse pull away from you more in the end. And so really, when you're expressing your anger to your spouse, it's really helpful to listen to what the anger is saying about how your spouse's choices have hurt you.
Okay.
Listening to that pain and then kind of bringing those places of pain to your spouse and saying, hey, when you did this, this is what it did to me. Okay, so that can be a really effective way to share our anger. And then the timing is also so important. We want to make sure that we're setting our relationship up for success. So not draining on our spouse and expecting them to be this unlimited well of listening and empathetic support because they're just human. Jesus is kind of the only one of us who can live up to that standard. And so just knowing that your spouse has a limited capacity to hear this, and so maybe setting up a time with them to have this conversation ensures that you'll both be prepared for what's coming in it.
That makes sense. So if you feel like maybe your anger, like you just kind of like, dude, it's like threatening to explode. I don't even know how to like be calm enough to like listen to that pain. What can you do with that then? Like, is there like, how can you even like, what's the best way to like process that then?
Yes, so good. I loved how you said that. I can't even be calm enough to kind of listen to that pain. And that is a time where you either need a person who loves you, cares about you, can hold that, right? They'll let you just kind of go rage and throw pillows around until you get it out. Or maybe what we call like a good anger container. Maybe you like to go run, or maybe you like to journal it out, scribble and rip pages while you're at it. But finding some outlets in people and in activities where you can really throw that anger at it. It's not going to hurt anyone, but you're going to get it out and get it expressed. Because that's a really healthy thing to do when the anger is feeling overwhelming.
No, that's good. I appreciate that there are, it's like sometimes you just need to like, in a safe way, like give into that rage and stuff, just because like, you're right. You want to be able to have good conversations. And I appreciate what you said, that it's good to share anger, but there is a right way to share anger that also is like, that is able to make it more easily heard. It sounds like is what you're trying to say, like for your spouse to actually take it in versus just feeling like railed against, which I feel like I feel like it's rare to find anyone who's like responds well to that. Like, oh, this is fine.
Yes, I love how you said that. Right. So it benefits you too, because your spouse is going to be able to hear it, be able to take it in when it comes in this different way.
Okay, so I feel like we really covered like the explosive anger, like what we can do with that. And so you said the other one was just like forgive and move on. We're just going to pretend maybe this didn't happen. I'm just going to be like Jesus. Yeah. But like, does that really like heal you? Can it keep you from actually healing if you just kind of put it away in a box and move on, even if you're trying to be righteous?
Yeah. I think the forgive and move on approach kind of forgives before it knows the extent of what it's forgiving, right? We haven't walked through the journey yet. How do we know what we're even forgiving?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the forgive and move on is more about avoidance than healing.
Okay.
Right? It's like if I just kind of push this down and act like it's not here, then I'll be fine. I'll get through. But really, it's just going to kind of sit there, right? If we turn away from a wound and expect it to heal, it's probably just going to get infected and cause more problems.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cause I mean, I appreciate what you said, that like you can forgive something. You can be like, oh, okay, I forgive you, but you may not even realize like all the areas of your life this new reality has like touched. Like it's kind of, it's like, it's kind of changed your reality. So you may not even start to realize like areas of your life it's affected, and how can you forgive totally like right away in the beginning when it's like, oh, like the first part's affected is just trust. But like there's, I feel like there's probably a lot of other areas it's touched besides just trust between you guys. So
well said.
But so we talked about the deep needs that we're trying to fulfill if we kind of resort to explosive anger. What deep needs are we trying to fulfill as if people are trying to use the forgive and move on approach?
I don't remember. We're gonna have to revisit that.
Okay. That's fine.
Let me go to my article. I have no idea.
I know in your article, or I can ask it again in a second. Let's see. It says,
I feel like it has to do something with like rejection, acceptance.
Okay, they long to be loved and accepted and are terrified of rejection.
Okay.
So discovering the porn addiction feels like a massive rejection, and you don't want to risk worsening it by showing how much you're in.
Yeah. Okay.
We can take a minute. You're good.
Okay. Here, let me like write that down. So I'm like, okay. I'm just gonna say what you said. Cool.
That's what you said. So
okay, great. I'm gonna say what I said.
I'm gonna say what you said. It's gonna be great. All right. So I'm going to re-ask that question as best I can, and we'll just go on, and it's gonna be fine.
Okay.
So I feel like we talked about the deep needs for like the explosive anger, just really trying to control it, avoid like feeling hurt. Like, what do you think the deep needs of someone who tends to do the like forgive and move on approach? Like, what deep needs are they trying to fulfill when they do that?
Yeah, so discovering the porn addiction for these folks already feels like a massive rejection. And so those in kind of the forgive and move on camp, they don't want to risk making it worse by bringing up their true feelings and emotions and telling their spouse how they've been hurt, because then, what if their spouse rejects them further? Can't hold those feelings, can't accept those feelings. It's really scary. So it just feels safer to say, I forgive you, Jesus forgives you. Let's put this behind us.
That's really sad. That's hard. So I know we kind of touched on a little bit, kind of like how it's like in this, forgive and move on, we may not even realize the scope of like what the things we need to forgive. What makes people be grieving, like when you discover your spouse's addiction? Like what other areas do you feel like that it touches and people may not even realize it touches?
Yeah. When it comes to grief, I feel like the journey is simultaneously so universal and so individual. So if you like sat in a room with other people who were kind of experiencing the same thing in their
Mm.
marriage, you would probably kind of find yourself in their stories, right? Then
Mhm.
like we've lost trust, we've lost time, we've lost kind of how we feel about memories.
Mm.
Maybe we feel like we've lost um, kind of family or the ability to
Wow.
be honest with family. But then there's probably some things that feel really unique to your relationship and your your journey with your spouse, and so um, it can be really helpful to kind of just write all those down and take a look and kind of inventory. Okay, this is what I've lost. This is what I'm grieving.
Yeah, one of the things that you pointed out in your article, which I thought was insightful, and I think we may not even realize it, was you wrote down some people feel like they lost like trust in themselves. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because like maybe can you like expand about that a little bit? Like why do some like you're the one who discovered it or like you were confessed to, like why do you feel like you kind of can lose trust in yourself?
Right. It's that moment where it's like, wait a second, I picked this person. I
Mm.
thought they were on the straight and narrow. I thought we had a good relationship. I thought they were faithful to me. Right. And all of the sudden, you feel like all these decisions I've made up until this point, like, was I blind? Did I know what was going
Wow.
on? Did I know the truth? And so it's not only hard to just trust your spouse in that moment, it's hard to know, what of me and in me can I trust? What a really
Wow.
scary place to be.
Yeah, I appreciate you expanding upon that. Yeah, I feel like you said, they're like it's discovering, and I like that you said that to like write down things because I mean, not that I know a lot, I'm not a counselor, but I feel like from what I've understood, like grief is just like it can be like more like a journey versus like a couple day thing. It's like as you are continuing to go through life, grief might come up again
Mm-hmm.
as you're even realizing like these feelings coming out. So
Yeah.
um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it's just good to like kind of take account of and like being okay with grieving lots of things, which it just feels hard though
Mm-hmm.
to process that. So you said like in your article, like the best approach, regardless of how you responded, whether you tend towards anger, you tend towards like the stuffing, quick forgiving, is to take your turmoil to safe people. Like that's the best way to start the healing process. Is there a way to like distinguish between safe and unsafe people? Like when it comes to sharing, like, oh my gosh, my spouse has this pornography addiction. Like, what do I do?
Yeah. Such an important question. I feel like a lot of people have answered this question well, kind of in our field. And for this context, some really important factors for safe people would be somebody who really loves you and somebody who really loves your spouse and is
Mm,
for you and for your spouse.
wow.
Um, yeah, somebody who's not going to turn around and kind of gossip or talk about what's going on, but they really can hold this in confidence. Somebody who's not going to try to give you a bunch of advice and fix the problem, but who can
Mm,
really sit in how hard this is, who can have patience in the journey, who can leave space and hold whatever emotion it is you're bringing to the table that day. Um, these are kind of some of the important qualities I would say um, make up a safe person.
yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that the safe person should kind of like love you and your spouse, not necessarily like perfectly equally, but like have the
Mhm.
aptitude or not aptitude, but like the I don't know, space in their heart. We'll just go with that. I don't know. I can't remember the right word. To love both of you. Because I feel like sometimes we feel
Mhm.
like the safe person is safe because they'll just listen to me and maybe they'll like also trash my spouse with
Mm.
me and that they're safe because they validate what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's important that that person you're sharing this to kind of like wants the best for both of you?
Yeah. You know, I think coming from, a believing Christian perspective, we really believe that marriage is kind of a reflection of God's heart and God's story with us. This is a really sacred thing. And so in that heart, it's something that's worth fighting for. It's something that's worth kind of engaging with a lot of humility and a lot of willingness to heal and grow on both ends. And so just want somebody who can honor, right, that design and honor each person's potential to heal and grow and get through this. And trashing your spouse with you, no matter how good it might feel for a minute, it's probably not the most true thing to you either, because this hurts so bad because this relationship mattered so much to you, because there's love in your heart for your spouse. And so,
No, I appreciate that. That's helpful, to like have that perspective. Almost like someone can like even like maybe hold hope for your relationship if there's even a part of you that feels hopeful, like someone else can still like hold that space with you when it may feel even harder to like hold on to that. So that's what it sounds like. So I know obviously people can go to therapy. It's counselors at MCO can like provide that, but are there any other resources people can use? Like, are there books or things that people can use that as they're going through this that can help them?
Yes, so many good resources out there. A couple that I mentioned, I think in the article, are Melissa Haas's The Journey. It is written, kind of directed, geared towards women, but still really good content if men would like to pick up a copy. She walked through this journey herself, and so I think it kind of really undoes aloneness, knowing that she knows what she's talking about. Yeah. And then a couple that I don't think I mentioned in the article that might be really helpful for people are Cloud and Townsend, the Boundaries folks. They also wrote a book called Safe People.
Oh, okay.
If you have questions about kind of what is a safe person in my life I can bring this to, that might be a really helpful resource. And then Bethesda Workshops. They're an organization that provides workshops for kind of the spouse who is dealing with the addiction, and then the spouse who is kind of walking with their spouse who is dealing with the addiction. And so just you could get some really good support with other people who are on the journey as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. So do you have any final piece of advice for anyone who's watching this?
I would say this is a really tempting journey to go alone because it's so hard to talk about. But my one piece of advice would be, imagine if it was your dear friend who was walking through this and they were really struggling, and just how deeply you would probably want to be there for them and care for them.
Yeah.
Maybe give your safe friend, your safe family member the opportunity to do that for you, and don't go it alone.
That's really good. Well, Jess, thanks so much for sharing your heart. It's so clear that you just really want to be a safe place for people, that you take this very seriously, and also that you have so much hope, though. It's not just like all like doom and gloom, but like, let's meet you where you at when it is feeling like doom and gloom. And like here we can like kind of make it to the next place together. So thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Thanks, Brittany.
Yeah. And for everyone watching and joining us, thank you so much. We appreciate your support. And really what we appreciate more is getting to share these resources to you and give you an idea that within Christian counseling, there's no area that is not okay to talk about. Everything under the sun is okay and wants to be helped with. That is not, you will not be shamed for whatever is going on in your life. If you would like to check out other articles that we've talked about, you can check us out on social media. On Facebook, you can find us if you search Love My Counselor. On Instagram, our handle is also Love My Counselor. And on YouTube, if you search My Counselor Online Christian Counseling, you'll see our biggest archive of videos. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another session of My Counselor Online.